Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to this Strategic Explainer. If you're gearing up for the celpip exam, you probably already know your grammar, and you've got a solid vocabulary. But today, we're doing a deep dive whiteboard session on something far more elusive, and honestly, a lot more tricky: Canadianisms. Knowing the local lingo isn't just some nice little bonus. It is absolutely essential for your test success. We're going to decode 13 specific exam zones, break down their cultural background, and sprinkle in some bilingual strategy to make sure you maximize that score.
Now you might be wondering, could your absolutely perfect standard English actually lower your celpip score? Well, the surprising answer is yes. Yes, it could. Using standard American or British vocabulary can actually act as a massive trap on this specific exam, because if you don't know the exact Canadian terminology, you might completely misunderstand a listening prompt or honestly just sound super unnatural in your speaking and writing sections.
All right, quick look at our agenda for today. 1. Canadian cultural exam traps. 2. Money and Tim's vocabulary. 3. Home and clothing keywords. 4. Food and navigation strategies. And 5. Mastering your celpip test.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, Canadian Cultural Exam Traps.
So, the celpip test is pretty unique. It doesn't just evaluate your textbook dictionary definitions, it actually evaluates your cultural context and how well you've integrated into Canadian daily life. Think of it like this. Vocabulary assumptions, that's the trap. Relying solely on what you learned in a generic English textbook is going to get you caught. The escape? Canadianisms. Throughout this explainer, we'll be using this trap and escape methodology. We're going to look at specific kaodian, or test points, and pinpoint the exact shangai, meaning the comprehension barriers, that you might face. By knowing the Canadianism, you secure your escape.
Moving right along to Section 2, Money and Tim's vocabulary.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it covers everyday transactions and Canada's iconic coffee culture, both of which are heavily featured in the exam's listening and speaking modules. First up, the loonie. That's the 1 Canadian dollar coin, or 一加元硬币. It literally gets its name because there's a common loon bird engraved on the back of it. Then we have the toonie, the 2 加元硬币. This is a two-toned metallic coin, and the name brilliantly just combines the word two and loonie. Get it? Next is Tim's, which is the short, everyday slang for Tim Hortons, the 蒂姆霍顿斯国民咖啡, Canada's national coffee shop. And finally, the famous double-double, or 经典双糖双奶咖啡. This is a highly specific ordering term that just means double cream and double sugar.
Let's simulate a listening test audio for a second. Imagine hearing this pop up in your headphones. The vending machine only accepts loonies and toonies. If you're sitting there thinking about paper bills or American quarters, you're trapped. As a candidate, you've got to recognize these coin terms instantly to understand the financial context of what's happening. Here's another fast-paced exam prompt you might run into. I'd like a medium double-double and a box of assorted Timbits, please, at Tim's. Notice how incredibly fast that goes? Tim's and double-double, along with Timbits, which are those little fried donut holes, are critical ordering keywords. The test audio is absolutely not going to pause and explain these to you. You are just expected to know them.
All right, Section 3, Home and Clothing Keywords. This right here is exactly the exam zone where highly fluent US or UK English speakers often get completely tripped up. When it comes to the room with the toilet in it, you are stepping into a massive US and UK trap. The authentic Canadian escape? Washroom, or shishogen. I strongly advise you do not write toilet or restroom in your celpip writing tasks. Washroom is the authentic, localized Canadian exam standard that you absolutely must use to show integration. Like, excuse me, could you tell me where the nearest washroom is located?
Here are 2 more vital home and clothing terms for you. First, Chesterfield, meaning changshafa. This is essentially equivalent to a sofa or couch. It's definitely a more traditional word, often used by older generations in Canada. So if you get a listening passage featuring an elderly speaker talking about their living room, totally expect to hear the word Chesterfield. Second, we've got runners or running shoes, which means yundongxie. While Americans will say sneakers and the British say trainers, Canadians habitually call them runners.
Next up is a word you literally must know for any scenario involving Canadian weather. Toque, sometimes spelled T-O-U-Q-U. This is a knitted winter hat, or 针织毛线帽. It's an absolute essential for surviving the freezing Canadian winter. This highly specific cultural keyword pops up all the time in reading passages about weather, winter sports, or, outdoor community activities.
Let's see how these look combined in a typical test sentence. Make sure to wear comfortable runners for the community walkathon.
don't forget to wear your toque and gloves, it's freezing outside. So the crucial point here is how context clues actually confirm the vocabulary for you. The word walkathon confirms we're talking about athletic shoes, right? Runners. And the word freezing confirms we need winter gear, pointing directly to that toque.
Jumping to Section 4, Food and Navigation Strategies. This zone tests your knowledge of Canadian snacks and, importantly, your ability to get around a Canadian city. Let's decode these food items. First is all-dressed, or 全调味. This is a uniquely Canadian potato chip flavor that basically mixes salt and vinegar, barbecue, onion, and a bunch of other stuff into one chip. Second is poutine, or 葡提口肉汁气式薯条. This is the ultimate national comfort food originating from Quebec. Think fries, squeaky cheese curds, and hot gravy. And third is pop, or 碳酸饮料. While someone on the American East Coast says soda and a Brit says soft drink, Canadians will habitually ask for a pop with their combo meals.
And this brilliantly illustrates a key facet of Canadian English, the difference between a paper napkin and a serviette, meaning 餐巾纸. Canada retains a ton of British and Commonwealth linguistic influences, so while an American asks for a paper napkin to wipe up a spill, a Canadian will frequently ask you for a serviette.
Now pay attention to this critical navigation keyword, parked, or 室内多层停车场. This simply means an indoor or multi-story parking garage. This term is incredibly high frequency on the exam, especially if you're taking it in Western provinces like British Columbia or Alberta. If you get a map-based question or directions in your listening test, you absolutely must be ready to track this word.
Park your car on the third level of the parkade behind the mall. If you don't know what a parkade is, you won't have a clue where the car is actually supposed to go in relation to that mall. Understanding this spatial context is exactly what the celpip is trying to test you on.
Finally, Section 5, Mastering Your Celpip Test. All right, we've defined the vocabulary. Now let's shift focus to some actionable exam strategies so you can deploy these words out there in the real test. Let's do a rapid-fire whiteboard summary. 1. Actively listen for Tims or loony to instantly grasp casual or financial audio contexts. 2. In your writing, always use washroom, never toilet. 3. Match the word runners to sports and outdoor scenarios. 4. Track the word parkade very carefully when dealing with maps and spatial directions. And 5. Recognize regional foods like poutine or all-dressed chips so you don't get completely lost during restaurant or social scenarios.
Let's move to and see how this builds into a really reliable mental process for your exam day. Step 1. Identify the trap. Catch yourself if you're making standard US or UK English assumptions. Step 2. Recall the Canadianism. Pause and think, wait, what is the localized word for this? Step 3. Apply context clues, like freezing for toque or walkathon for runners, to confirm the meaning. Following this 3-step process ensures you can confidently escape pretty much any exam trick they throw at you.
I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to chew on. Does the celpip test measure just your grammar, or is it actually measuring how well you've truly integrated into Canadian culture? I think the evidence from these 13 terms is pretty clear. To absolutely conquer this exam, you have to go beyond the textbook and truly embrace the culture. Keep studying these Canadianisms, pay attention to how locals actually speak, and I promise you, you will see your scores soar. Keep up the great focus and happy studying.